So question one is all about what blended learning means to me. And I think having done a bit of reading round, what we could conclude is that blended learning is a teaching style that draws together both face-to-face contact and other sort of online activities, be that pre-sessional tasks or post-sessional tasks. Some authors would define blended learning by the amount of non-face-to-face content, if that makes sense. So I read one paper that said that if the non-face-to-face element accounts for between 30 and 70% of the taught experience, then that's probably a blended learning technique that we are using. I read another paper that was actually quite critical of blended learning and sort of said that blended learning was a consequence of the massification or marketisation of higher education, and actually it's a method by which to sort of deliver education to the masses in a fairly efficient fashion, if that makes sense. I think what's clear from having a read around is that people use blended learning in very, very different ways. Like I've said, it could be used for pre-sessional tasks or for post-sessional tasks. One paper that I read said that actually sort of like confirmatory quizzes, almost like a post-sessional task, students found particularly beneficial and valuable to confirm what it was that they learnt from sort of like the taught experience. Now, I spoke to one of the chaps that works for our technology enhanced learning service within the Faculty of Health and Wellbeing, and he said that however we implement or instigate a blended learning approach, the important thing is that we join the dots together, and actually students find it particularly frustrating when they maybe sort of engage with a pre-sessional task, but that pre-sessional task is then in no way linked to what they do in the classroom. So I think key messages are that blended learning is a combination of face-to-face and other methods of engagement, be that asynchronous tasks that the students complete in their own time, or be that engaging in some sort of synchronous tasks, so maybe an online activity that a lecturer is facilitating. Some people think quite critically about this approach and think, well, actually, if higher education wasn't open to the masses, for lack of a better word, like it is, then actually would we need this approach in the first place? And I think that's quite an interesting concept that we could choose to explore in a little bit more detail, and that actually some of the confirmatory stuff or some of the post-sessional stuff that we could do surrounding blended learning, students find particularly valuable.